So for the past week or two, I've been really focusing on balancing my chakras and aligning them and clearing any blockages. And what really brought that on was realizing that my root chakra was out of balance because I was literally having physical skin peeling on my tailbone. Like the skin has been dry in that area for a while and I just didn't put two and two together. And then when I did, I was like, oh, you know what, maybe I should do a root chakra balancing meditation. And when I went to go do that, I was like, no, you know what, I should do a whole chakra balancing meditation. And that's what led me to realizing that my throat chakra was actually constricted and that I needed to open it more so that I could express myself and my voice with the world in every way, whether that's pertaining to my personal life or pertaining to talking to you guys or even pertaining to speaking up for myself and others. So that's why this video is all about speaking up for yourself. And if you're new here, welcome. I am Julia. And if you're not, welcome back. But yeah, so I don't know if I've done too much work with my root chakra yet. I do feel a lot of things coming up around that, but I haven't totally delved into it because once I became aware of the constriction going on in my throat, I really started paying attention to that and working through it because that felt more relevant to what I needed at the moment and what we all are needing collectively. So over the past weekend and week, I guess you could say, I've been manifesting situations where I really needed to embody opening my throat chakra and speaking up for myself in small ways and bigger ways. And it's really helped me sort of work through and heal things that I didn't even realize I was kind of avoiding, kind of shoving under the rug, throwing in the closet and shutting the door and being like, I don't want to look at this right now. Let's just go along with life. But when we do that, things build up and then we end up manifesting even bigger scenarios for us to have to show up for ourselves and speak up if that is what you're working through. So because I was able to clock that and become aware of that, in these little moments this past weekend, I was able to actually change the pattern. And even in those uncomfortable moments where this feels terrifying and weird and scary and like I don't want to do it, after I looked at myself and was like, oh girl, you just beat a pattern. Good for you. And that's the thing about universal lessons. They will keep showing up over and over and over again until we change the pattern, until we work through it, because it is our job as humans on this earth to grow and to expand and wake up into remembering who we truly are. And if we're not doing the inner work and embodying it in our external reality, we're staying stuck. Okay, so I wrote some things on my iPad about speaking up and the throat chakra, because if you are having trouble speaking up, that may mean that you have a blockage in your throat chakra or it's constricted like mine is. I don't feel like mine's fully blocked, but I do feel like it was constricted to the point where I could speak on certain things, but other things maybe not. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing so and would let fear get in the way. But anyway, the internet says that the throat chakra is the center of communication, emotion, and creativity. It affects your ability to be honest and express your thoughts. When your throat chakra is imbalanced or blocked, it can be difficult for energy to flow through this area. And when it comes to any chakra blockage, there's usually some type of trauma or experience that happens that makes us want to close it down. And so I've had many, but I think coming back here to my hometown in Philly and just experiencing different situations throughout the pandemic with different people, I ended up really closing down my throat chakra so that I wouldn't have conflicts with others and that I would have peace. But in actuality, it did not create peace for me. It created a sort of bypassing to what was really going on. So instead of me expressing my emotions or how I felt to others, I would just sort of internalize it, take it in, and then I would end up either isolating myself from them or presenting this sort of fake version of myself that couldn't be fully authentic because I was holding all these things in that were bothering me. And so I would experience this war inside versus outwardly reflected. So whether you are having a war on the outside or a war on the inside, it's still a war going on. And that means you don't have any inner peace or external peace. So at first, the way I was coping with this was just making these very extreme boundaries, isolating myself, really becoming an island unto myself and avoiding people that were going to trigger me because I didn't feel like I could communicate how I was feeling, what my needs were, whatever. Just I didn't feel like I could communicate with them any type of thing that could cause the boat to rock or any conflict to come up. And when you can't do that, you can't have genuine connections with people because you're not operating from a place of truth by sharing your truth. And there are ways that you can share your emotions and how someone makes you feel without blaming, shaming, guilting, judging, all of those things. And I didn't know how to do that. So instead I decided I would just shut up, you know, which didn't work, clearly. And so after I did the meditation the other week, I was like, okay, I'm open to embodying this. I'm open to clearing this. And then this past weekend, I had multiple experiences show up where I got to prove that to myself. So the first one I want to bring up is actually one that I did not handle correctly, and that is going to continue to show up until I do. But that's just how universal lessons work, so I'm okay, I understand that, and I'm not beating myself up about it or making myself feel guilty or bad because I made a mistake and didn't work through what I wanted to work through. I know that I can do it again, and that is okay. So the first situation was not following up on an apartment that I was interested in because I was scared to call and ask for what I wanted. So that apartment ended up getting taken off the market, and so I missed out on that. And then another apartment came up and I was still scared to call, and that one also ended up getting taken off the market. And the lesson that I'm learning in this is if you aren't proactive and quick to go after what you want, you will miss the opportunity. Not to say that the opportunity won't come around again, because another apartment will show up, but I need to be diligent enough, on it enough to face my fear and just call and ask, schedule an appointment to see it, and let it be that. So until I'm willing to do that, I won't be able to get my apartment in California. I have to work through this. I have to be okay with asking for what I want. The next lesson that came up for me was at the coffee shop. I ordered this delicious coffee, and it has these like little cookie crumbles on top. They didn't really sprinkle a lot on, and then I remember that normally I ask for extra cookie crumbles when I'm ordering the coffee, and that I forgot. So I had taken a few sips of the drink, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I really want more cookie crumble. I wonder if I can ask. And then I was like, is that weird? Is that weird to ask? I mean, I've already drinking some of the drink. Like, what if they find that annoying? What if this, that, whatever? And then another voice in my head was like, does it really matter? Like, if you ask and they say no, okay, too bad. If you ask and they say yes, then you get what you want. And it's just cookie crumbs. And I sat there and thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and the voice kept getting louder in my head. The emotion kept getting louder in my head. And then I realized if I don't ask for this small thing, then what am I telling the universe? What am I telling myself? That I'm not willing to stand up for myself, even when it comes to something so small as just asking for a little bit of extra cookie crumbs. And then I realized this super small situation is way bigger than I thought, because this is a pattern for me. It wasn't really about the cookie crumbs, and it wasn't really about the situation at all. It was about the pattern, and that I needed to get up and ask for what I wanted and break the freaking pattern. So that's exactly what I did. I stood up, I went to the barista and was like, hey, this might be a weird request, but is there any way I can get a little extra cookie crumbs? They're just so good. And yeah. And the barista was like, yeah, of course. I'm literally pouring cookie crumbs on this drink right now. Like, hand me your beverage. I'll put some on yours. And I was like, oh my God, what a synchronicity. How amazing is that? And in that moment, I realized that asking for what you want, no matter how small, matters. And that closed mouths don't get fed. That quote, that saying is so freaking true. So even if it's something as silly as asking for some extra cookie crumbs on your beverage, it still matters to stand up and speak up for yourself. The next situation occurred later that evening, and I was out at a bar with my friends. This situation, I think I actually learned multiple lessons in, which is really great. This person showed up, this total stranger, to teach me, like, I want to say anywhere from 3 to 5 lessons, but the one that I am going to share with you right now is specifically the one in expressing and communicating how others make you feel, even if they're strangers that you will never see again. And so I actually did get to learn the lesson of asking for what I want from this guy as well. So I'll talk about both of those. So starting with asking for what I want. He came up to me and the 2 girls that I was with, and one of them, I think he either offered to buy us drinks or she asked him. I don't know. But I said that I just wanted a tequila shot. That's why I was standing by the bar. I didn't really want a drink. I just wanted like one and done, and that would be it for me for the night. And so he ordered tequila sodas for us, which is fine. I'm grateful. That was nice. But I don't like soda, and so I kind of got stuck with this tequila soda. I didn't want to be rude, so I didn't throw it out, but I also didn't want to drink it. So I was just kind of holding it, and it was fine. It wasn't really that big a deal. And so I go on to talk to this guy, and he's obviously flirting with me. There's like an attraction, nothing too deep. So I end up continuing to hang out and talk to the guy who bought me drinks. We go to the dance area, and we're just kind of like, I'm very, what's the word? Reserved, especially around strangers. So we're kind of like dancing, bopping to the beat. He wanted me to be warmer towards him, and I was a little standoffish just because he's a stranger. And so he's saying all these nice things to me, whatever. And I'm like listening, I'm taking it in. I'm like, okay, like who knows your intentions, who knows your motives, but I'll accept your compliments for sure. Why not? And so it gets to a point where I don't know what happened. I think he dropped one of his drinks, and then I say that I didn't really want the tequila soda. Well, I said originally that I didn't want the tequila soda, but I didn't want to be rude, so I took it anyway. And so when we were over by the dance floor, I was like, I actually wanted shot. And he's like, well, why didn't you say that? And I'm like, I did say that, but I'm saying it again, and now you know. And he's like, okay, well, all you have to do is ask. And I was like, you're right. That is a freaking lesson right there. So we go over and I tell him that I will only take a shot if you do, so we have to do this together. So we do. And then he says he has to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, you go to the bathroom. I'm gonna go with my friends over there. I show him exactly where I'll be. And then he comes over, I wave at him, he's with his friend, and then he like walks away. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Like, I just took this shot with you. Why'd you disappear? But I didn't say that because he had already left. So I was kind of getting a little bit angry, and I'm like, what just happened? But I let it go. And then maybe like 20-30 minutes later, I see him with another girl. This girl's wearing a puffer, and I'm like, what? And he like walks over with her right in my view line, and that got me super angry, and I was fuming. And I said to one of my friends, I'm like, do I have permission to go throw a drink at this random man at the bar? And they're like, no, it's not that deep, you don't even know him. And then I realized that it was never about him, that it was about me expressing how somebody makes me feel and standing up for myself. So 30 minutes go by, I'm still fuming, and I finally make the realization that I have to go and say something to him regardless of how he responds back. So the next time I see him, I asked my other friend who I knew was going to validate me doing this. I was like, Zach, if I go up to this guy and give him a piece of my mind, is that okay? He's like, yeah, girl, express yourself. And I'm like, thank you. So I do. I go right up to him and I go off. I'm like, you said this, and this to me, acting like you were so interested. Then we get this shot and suddenly you're off with some girl in a puffer, and I'm like, what even happened? So I am letting my full anger show. Obviously in a kind way. I'm not like cursing the guy out or blaming him, shaming him, this and that, guilting him. I'm not doing all of that, but I am expressing how this situation made me feel because I needed to release this, and he just happened to be the stranger that was the catalyst for this. He took it well. In fact, it actually made us connect more that night because he was able to explain his situation. I was able to explain my situation. There was a miscommunication in there, and we ended up getting to talk throughout the night, move past that, and I got to learn some other lessons through him because of that. So I say all that to say that it doesn't matter if it's a stranger, if it's someone you've known forever, if it's a situation that may never pop up again per se, you have to go and speak up for yourself. You have to clear the air. You have to let these things go. And sometimes you can do it within yourself without bringing it to another person, but sometimes you do need to bring it to another person, and that is where the throat chakra being open really comes into play, because when you do express yourself, you do want to do it from a place of heart connectedness where you're not attacking another person or purposefully hurting another person. If your intent is good and pure, anything you say is okay. And however they take it, whether they take it in a defensive way or they take it in a way where they see your truth, that's on them, as long as you are living in your truth and communicating in your truth. So the main takeaway that I got from that was huge. I mean, this was a deep-rooted block for me that I released. I opened up. In fact, later that night, my body was like shaking because I had done so much inner work that I had to like shake it off like animals do. But we are human animals, so it is what it is. And I realized that like that was an activation of me speaking from the feminine to a masculine in a way that just needed to be done because I've been holding back from doing it for so long, whether that was in my relationships or people I dated or whatever. I had just held back for so long that I took the opportunity to do it, and I was really happy that I did so. I was proud of myself for standing up because I was scared. Before I went up to go face that guy, I was like terrified. I'm like, this is uncomfortable, embarrassing, awkward, but you know what? F that. I'm gonna do this and I will feel so much better after. And that's the truth. That's the thing about it when it comes to speaking up. Our ego will convince us how embarrassing and awkward, uncomfortable, scary it is. But then when we actually do it, we realize that it wasn't that bad. So I want to give you a few signs to look for when you have the urge to communicate something from your heart, from your most authentic self, but you're feeling resistance towards it. One, you're gonna get a very strong feeling or an urge within you, either because you want something or because you want to share something or because whatever the emotion is, you'll feel a strong urge. Then you're gonna have a thought about how to respond, whether that means you're gonna ask for something or you're gonna communicate how something made you feel, whatever you're gonna communicate, but you're gonna have a thought about what it is you want to communicate. Then if you don't act on both the thought and the feeling, they're gonna get louder and louder and louder. And then you might start to feel anxiety for not doing so, for not speaking up. And that will get louder and louder and louder. But deep down, regardless of the emotions and the anxiety, you know that you need to speak from your highest truth. And the reason you're having all these things come up is because you're not. And if you let the fear win, because the fear will be there, anxiety is just another form of fear, then you're gonna have to repeat this. Like I said, with the apartment situation, you're gonna have to repeat this again and again until you finally get it. The time to act, the time to speak up is always now. And if you act now, it will become easier and easier and easier to do so each time these situations come up for you. And the funny thing about this is I know this is just like the tip of the iceberg for me. There's so many things that I could literally list off the top of my head that I know I need to communicate, I know I need to speak up about, and that I'm scared to do so. But you know what? The thoughts about it keep getting louder. The feeling about it keeps getting louder. And I know if I don't do it, it's gonna keep getting even louder. So my challenge for us is to go into the world and really speak our truth, communicate, express ourselves, open that throat chakra for the good of all involved. And I'm taking this challenge on with you. So let me know in the comments down below if you do this, and I'll keep you updated on the things that I'm scared to communicate that I know I need to do right after I do so. Oh, and I want to communicate one more thing, because this is the thing that I know I need to communicate that I'm really scared to do, but that I'm challenging myself to do in the next few weeks. Isn't coming from a place of conflict per se or speaking up for myself, but it's coming from my heart and expressing feelings that I didn't share that are heartfelt. And that can be even scarier sometimes because it's so vulnerable and so raw and open. But I feel like that's why I needed to go through those scenarios this past weekend so that I could feel strong enough to communicate from that completely stripped down heart place. And I'm not fully there yet. I have so much fear around this, but I know I need to do it. And I know the sooner I do it, the better I will feel and the more I will grow, regardless of the person's response to my heartfelt communication. So I want you guys to take on this challenge with me and speak up for yourself in whatever way you need to. For me, I have many, but that is one major one that keeps getting louder and louder and louder inside of me until I finally act on it. So all that being said, I will see you in next week's video next week. I love you guys so much. Bye.